name is Quentin Angus. I'm an Australian jazz guitarist who is now based in New York City, and I've just recorded my second album as a band leader. It's due to be released on the 18th of June 2013, and the album is called Perception. The album features 15 different musicians. They include, on the alto saxophone, Vinson, who plays with one of my favourite jazz guitarists, Jonathan Kreisberg. On the piano, featured on the album is Shai Maestro, who recorded for many years with one of my favourite composers, Avishai Cohen. On bass, we have a fellow Australian musician who's doing fantastic things here in New York, Miss Linda O. And finally on drums, featured is Kenneth Salters, and he plays quite a major role on the album. The album's extremely diverse. It has a lot of different styles, and it doesn't matter what vibe or kind of style that I want to do, Kenneth always brings to the table a really broad palette of different colours and ideas, and he always knows the perfect thing to play with my music. There are a bunch of other musicians that were kind of guest artists, and they featured on either one track or two tracks, and they included vocalist Joe Lawry, who's a really amazing vocalist who's been touring and recording with Sting for the past couple of years. Also on soprano saxophone, featured on one tune, we have Chad Lefkowitz-Brown. We have an Israeli bass player featured on a few tunes. His name is Bareket. And then another fellow South Australian on piano, Matthew Sheens, and he also arranged the string arrangements which are featured on the album. So finally, there's also a string quintet which is featured on a couple of tunes on the album, and it was a quintet led by the bass player Yanni Burton, and he's from the Solomé Chamber Orchestra. One of the people who made a major impact on this recording was the producer for the album, John Gordon, and it was really good to have someone to oversee the entire project and sort of be looking at it without worrying about playing the music itself. Looking back on it now, he really had a major influence in terms of the way the project ended out sounding and the way the final product turned out. The name of the album, Perception, and also what got me started on this album, was my interest in the way that humans perceive art and other forms of entertainment, and also just the world in general through our really quite limited auditory and visual senses. And in particular, I drew inspiration from scientific explorations which sort of draw out these flaws in human perception, things like optical illusions, combining different colours together to alter our perception, blind spots and different tricks and things like that. And what I wanted to do was draw that concept into my own music and see how I could explore that with my own compositions. And so I used techniques such as metric modulation, different displacements and things like that to try and use that as a structure for my own compositions and also my improvisations as well. I'm really excited for the release of this album, and I'd like to thank the engineer Michael Perez. I'd also like to thank Alan Silverman, who did the mastering of the recording. I'd also like to thank Karl Youth Arts and the South Australian Government, who generously provided funding which helped make sure that this project went forward and got completed. And lastly, I'd like to thank you for listening and for checking out this music, and I'm really happy with the album, and I really hope you enjoy it, and thanks for listening.